David Chen pulled his black wool coat tighter against the December wind as he walked down Fifth Avenue with his 6-year-old daughter Sophie. At 38, he commanded boardrooms and managed a tech empire worth millions. But moments like these, holding his daughter's mittened hand while snowflakes danced around them, reminded him what truly mattered. Sophie skipped beside him, her curly brown hair peeking out from beneath her cream-colored knit hat with its cheerful pom-pom.
"Daddy, can we get hot chocolate after we pick up your papers from the office?"
"Of course, sweetheart," David smiled, checking his watch. The merger documents could wait another hour. Ever since his wife Caroline had passed away 2 years ago, he'd learned to treasure these simple moments with Sophie. As they approached the small park near his office building, Sophie suddenly stopped walking. "Daddy, look," she whispered, tugging on his coat sleeve. David followed her gaze to a bench partially sheltered by evergreen trees. There, wrapped in what appeared to be old blankets and newspapers, sat a young woman with blonde hair holding a tiny bundle. Even from a distance, he could see her shoulders shaking, though whether from cold or something else, he couldn't tell. "Daddy, her baby is freezing," Sophie said, her voice filled with the innocent concern that only children possess. "We have to help them." David felt the familiar tug between his protective instincts as a father and his daughter's compassionate heart. The city could be dangerous, and he'd always taught Sophie to be cautious around strangers. But something in the woman's posture, the way she held the infant so carefully despite her obvious distress, spoke to him. "Stay close to me," he told Sophie as they approached the bench. The woman looked up as they drew near. She was younger than David had initially thought, maybe 25, with tired blue eyes that held both wariness and desperation. The baby in her arms was indeed very small, wrapped in what looked like a thin hospital blanket that had seen better days. "Excuse me," David said gently, his voice softer than the tone he used in business meetings. "Are you all right? Do you need help?" The woman's grip tightened on her baby. "We're fine," she said quickly, though her chattering teeth betrayed her words. "Just resting." Sophie stepped forward, her child's directness cutting through adult pretenses. "Your baby looks cold. My daddy has a warm car and we could take you somewhere with heat." The woman, who would later introduce herself as Emma, looked between David's expensive coat and Sophie's earnest face. "I don't want any trouble. We're not asking for money." David knelt down to Sophie's level, then looked up at Emma. "My daughter's right. It's getting colder and that little one needs warmth. I'm David and this is Sophie. We'd like to help. No strings attached." Emma studied David's face, searching for signs of deception or hidden motives. What she saw instead was genuine concern, and a father who clearly understood the fierce protectiveness she felt for her child. "I'm Emma," she said finally. "And this is baby James. He's only 3 weeks old." Sophie's eyes widened with delight. "He's so tiny." "Daddy, we have to help them right now." David stood, making a decision that felt both impulsive and absolutely right. "There's a family shelter about 10 minutes from here. They have a nursery and medical staff. Would you let us drive you there?" Emma's composure cracked slightly. "I tried there yesterday. They're full until after the holidays." "Then we'll find somewhere else," David said firmly. "Sophie's right, little James needs to be warm." As David gently wrapped his red wool scarf around baby James, Emma felt tears freeze on her cheeks. When was the last time a stranger had shown her such kindness without expecting something in return? The walk to David's car was slow, with Sophie chattering constantly to Emma about her favorite things, her dolls, her school, and how her daddy made the best grilled cheese sandwiches in the world. Emma found herself smiling despite her circumstances, charmed by the little girl's enthusiasm. In the warm Mercedes, as David called various shelters and family services, Emma finally felt safe enough to share her story. She'd aged out of foster care at 18, struggled through community college while working multiple jobs, and had been living with James's father until he disappeared when she told him about the pregnancy. The hospital had discharged them 3 days ago, and she'd been staying in the park since then, too proud to return to the foster system that had failed her before. "Emma," David said after ending his 4th phone call, "I have an idea, but I want you to know you can say no." Emma looked at him warily. "What kind of idea?" "My company has a guest house on the property," David explained carefully. "It's fully furnished, has heat, a kitchenette, and it's completely private. You and James could stay there while we figure out a more permanent solution." Emma was quiet for so long that Sophie leaned forward from her car seat. "Emma, my daddy's guest house has really good heat and there's a grocery store right nearby. You could take care of baby James there. Why would you do this for strangers?" Emma asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David was quiet for a moment, remembering the loneliness he'd felt after Caroline's death. The way strangers' kindness had sometimes been the only thing that got him through a day. "Because everyone deserves a safe place to take care of their family," he said simply. Emma looked down at James, who had finally stopped shivering now that he was wrapped in David's warm scarf. "I don't have any way to pay you back." "Payment isn't required for kindness," David replied. "But if you want to contribute something, maybe you could help me understand how someone ends up in your situation. I chair the board of a local family foundation, and clearly we're not reaching the people who need help most." Sophie clapped her hands together. "And Emma, you could teach me how to take care of babies. I've always wanted to learn." For the first time in weeks, Emma laughed. "I'm still learning myself, Sophie." 3 days later, Emma was settled into the guest house with James, who was thriving in the warmth and safety of their temporary home. David had connected her with his family's pediatrician, who declared James healthy but underweight, and with a social worker who specialized in helping young mothers build stable lives. But the most unexpected development was the friendship growing between Emma and Sophie. The 6-year-old visited every day after school, fascinated by the baby and full of questions about everything from feeding schedules to why babies sleep so much. "Emma," Sophie said one afternoon as she carefully held James while Emma prepared his bottle, "are you going to be our family now?" Emma looked up, startled. "Sophie, honey, I'm just staying here temporarily until I can find my own place." "But Daddy smiles more now," Sophie observed with the devastating honesty of childhood. "And you make really good soup, and baby James could be like my little brother." David, who had been listening from the doorway, stepped into the room. "Sophie, Emma has her own life to build. We're just helping her get started." But even as he said the words, David realized how much he looked forward to these evening visits. How Emma's gentle presence had brought a warmth to their home that had been missing since Caroline's death. Emma wasn't just a charity case anymore. She was becoming a friend, someone whose strength and resilience he genuinely admired. 2 weeks later, Emma received news that changed everything. The foundation David chaired had approved her application for housing assistance and childcare support, while she finished her degree in early childhood education. But more than that, they wanted to hire her as a family advocate, helping other young mothers navigate the systems she had learned to understand. "David, I don't know how to thank you," Emma said as they sat in his living room while Sophie played with James on a blanket by the fireplace. "You already have," David replied. "You've shown Sophie what real courage looks like. You've reminded me that success isn't just about building companies. It's about building community." Sophie looked up from where she was making funny faces at James. "Daddy, does this mean Emma and baby James get to stay close to us?" David and Emma exchanged a glance full of possibility and hope. "Yes, sweetheart," David said softly. "I think it means they get to stay close to us." As snow continued to fall outside the warm house, Emma realized that sometimes the coldest moments in life lead us to the warmest discoveries. She had found not just shelter and safety, but something she'd never really had before. A chosen family built on kindness, mutual respect, and love that grew naturally from caring for one another. James gurgled happily from his blanket, surrounded by the laughter of his new extended family, and Emma knew that her son would grow up understanding something she was just learning. That home isn't just a place. It's the people who choose to love and support you when you need it most. Outside, the snow fell softly on the city, but inside, 3 adults and 2 children had discovered that the greatest warmth comes not from furnaces or fireplaces, but from hearts that choose compassion over indifference and love over fear.